They failed so badly that it's hard not to believe some of those conspiracy theories. That's what makes this all so bizarre. What we had looked like planning to get somebody shot. Like, you failed against the criminal equivalent of Barney Fife. Hey folks, welcome back to Bullets and Brass. Today we are talking about what everybody is talking about. We are talking about the shooting at the Trump rally where he got shot in the ear and the Secret Service failed miserably. There's no other way to put it. I am not going to get into any of the conspiracy theories. I am not going to speculate on the motives of the shooter. I am not going to even assign blame for why the shooting happened. That is a separate topic, and honestly, I do not have enough information. There's a whole lot of stuff going around, information that I have no way to verify. All I can look at is what physically happened and give my 2 cents. I am not a professional. I am not, a military sniper. I never worked for the Secret Service. I've never worked in law enforcement. I'm not a complete amateur in the sense that I have no knowledge and experience, but I am not the trained professional, which makes this worse because I'm clearly going to be missing things that they've failed even worse on. There are plenty of people who are those people, are trained professionals for this, and they have commented, and they're even more scathing than I am. So let's get into it. They failed so badly that it's hard not to believe some of those conspiracy theories. That's what makes this all so bizarre and so ripe for conspiracy theories is they failed so badly that you can't help but wonder. This should have been a fairly basic, normal assignment, normal situation, right? This is a political rally. The protectee is standing at a fixed location for several minutes speaking. You have a perimeter you can handle, and then outside of that, you're just hoping for the best. You're hoping for some deterrence by maybe a roaming patrol, but really you're hoping you don't have a true professional taking a shot from 1,500 yards out, right? There's nothing bizarre about this situation, about the location, the environment, the need for security. They don't have an excuse on that. There's nothing weird about this that they can go, well, we've never run into this before. This should have been a training scenario, they've done over and over and over. This should be in the book. For some simple terms here, I'm going to refer to Crook as the shooter. I'm going to refer to the Secret Service snipers as either snipers or counter snipers or the Secret Service, just to differentiate. The most obvious failure, the most obvious spot where they completely blew it was not controlling that roof. Whether physically, meaning you have somebody standing probably on the roof behind that was a little taller, that had a commanding view of all of those buildings. Why did you have people inside them but not somebody on top? Slopey roof, my butt. Okay, whatever, lady. Somebody clearly should have been on one of those roofs. In fact, a pair should have been on one of those roofs. In fact, one of your 2 Secret Service sniper pairs that were on the buildings behind Trump should have been on that roof. Why? Because they didn't have an angle to that roof. Why did you have your 2 people, your 2 teams, paired up in a tight location rather than separating them to give you better angles on different locations? If one doesn't have a shot, the other one will, right? Why would you do that? Why would you not control a good vantage point that was inside any normal perimeter? Let's be clear. The distance involved is inside any reasonable perimeter for a static target. If your protectee is going to stand there and not be walking around, is not going to be moving from building to building, 150 yards is awful close to not at least have a body there. At the very least, they should have made sure, 100% sure, that nobody else could use it. This is done by, you have local law enforcement there on that roof. You have cameras watching it and somebody going, hey, right now, bad guy on that roof. A drone monitoring it. And the ability for one of your snipers to shoot it. Your snipers were low enough that they didn't have an angle on that whole roof. Fail. Hard fail. Not acceptable. You're saying that, meaning the Secret Service, is saying, we didn't have the manpower, budget cuts, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Does anybody care? Does anybody at all think that that's an acceptable answer? Local law enforcement could have been standing there. You're telling me you can't come up with 2 local people? Put fire department on the roof. I don't care. You need 2 people with a walkie-talkie and maybe some binoculars. You can't come up with that? If you can't come up with that, why didn't you ask for more money? We're sending billions to Ukraine. We spend money just pouring it out on all sorts of things. You're telling me that there isn't money in the budget if you asked to handle this? Now, I'm not talking even about the local agents asking. I'm not talking about his detail asking. I'm saying that when they asked and you came back with, yeah, we can't afford it, priorities, right? You only have so many available agents, and that's true. But why is that the answer? Why did you never go back to Congress and say, hey, we do have an elevated threat level. Presidents are living longer. We have more protectees. We need a bigger budget for this particular thing, meaning protective details need more bodies. We are pulling untrained bodies from other aspects of this role. Other Secret Service agents who are not trained in the protection details, Homeland Security agents that are not trained to be protective agents. We need more protective agents, and we need to have more training, and we need to make sure everybody's up to speed. I don't understand why that never came up. That request for more budget for that doesn't seem to exist, which means that you can't use that as an excuse for failing to do your duty. You, as the Secret Service, have a sworn duty to do this job. It is your most important job. Everything else you do, somebody else can do, and you failed horribly. Your protectee, a former president, a current nominee, is only alive because of luck. Because whether you want to look at it as the shooter's bad luck or Trump's good luck, the shooter didn't miss. Trump moved at the last moment. I mean, that trigger pull was already 90% complete, and Trump moved. You can't argue that we did our job, it just, it happens. No. You can't argue that that roof was too slopey. I don't care. You had a job. Figure it out. If you can't station somebody on that roof, make sure that roof is not available for somebody else. Make sure that somebody on that roof can't take a shot. I don't care what you have to do. We're not talking about protecting some random senator. We're not talking about some random federal judge. We're talking about a former president. Whether you like him or hate him, he is a former president. The litmus test, if you are a liberal, if you are a Democrat, fringe left, I don't care. If Obama was on that stage and this happened, how would you feel about what they did for protecting him? Right? Because it's not about the politics of the individual. They can't let the politics get in the way. And I kind of feel like they did. I kind of feel like that's what we're seeing is that, we don't have the budget for that. But you never tried. You didn't go, well, let's ask for more money. No, somebody somewhere in the administration said, nope, he's a low priority, don't worry about it. And I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories of why they might have done that, what they might have been hoping for. But yeah, it's a little sus, right? So going further, why? Because they knew he was there, right? Before he actually popped over the peak of the roof and lined up his shot and took a shot. The Secret Service knew he was there. That radio call has happened. We already know that. Why was the Secret Service team that did have an angle on that roof, and they should have damn well known that they were the one with the angle on the roof. That other team should not have been looking at that roof. They should have been looking somewhere else in case there was a second shooter. Bad training. So the team that knows that roof is our area of responsibility should have already been at least one of the two, right? You got 2 shooters on their 2 snipers on that roof. They can get an angle on that other roof. Why was not at least one of them, preferably the one further to the front who has a better angle, not already lined up on that roof line? Why? You know there's somebody there. That's not normal. You know that person was behaving suspiciously. And why are they there, right? There's no valid reason. Now, we can argue that they're not supposed to shoot until there's an immediate threat, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Bullshit. If that's the case, let's go back and prosecute the shooter from Ruby Ridge. He needs to be in prison. Because that man shot 3 unarmed people, one of which was an infant in arms. What is your excuse? You have somebody climbing up on a roof, low crawling, who's been acting suspiciously outside your close-in perimeter. I'm sorry, when that person pops up on the roof, you should be ready to shoot. Now, you may hold fire. I'm not saying you automatically pull the trigger, but you damn well are ready to. What the hell? Cops every day pull their guns and point them at people on less suspicion. And apparently that's okay. It's not okay, by the way. But they're not protecting the president, right? Now, he's the former president, but he's still Mr. President, right? They're literally going, I'm nervous. I'm going to point my gun at this person. Well, that's criminal. But in this case, it's not. It's normal. It's an appropriate response. And when that guy his head comes up over the top of that roof and there's a gun, you pull the trigger. What are you waiting for? Why were you not already aligned with that roof? You should have had to be able to just pan across that roof line until you had the shooter in your sights. Bang. Now, I'm not saying you might have stopped him from getting that first shot. He was pretty quick. The guy did not do poorly as the shooter. But you're telling me a Secret Service sniper or whatever agency those guys work for, because if they weren't Secret Service, fail on the Secret Service. But you're telling me those guys aren't good enough to do that quicker than he can come up over the roof and acquire his target? Really? Then replace them, because they're clearly not good enough for their job. I am faulting the 2 on the second roof, the one closer actually to the shooter. They got distracted. They were not responsible for that rooftop because they didn't have an angle. They need to be watching elsewhere, because hopefully, if we're going with no conspiracy theories here, they don't know if there's another shooter. They don't know if this is the only threat. You have a job to continue. Let the other team do their job. You continue to scan for other threats. Do not fixate on one threat when you don't know if it's the only threat. Now, to be fair, they did have an angle on much of that roof, on a big chunk of that roof. So they may have thought, okay, we'll see what we got. Poor training, poor coordination, poor planning. Maybe we don't assign all the blame to them. We assign the blame to the person who set up the plan and the training for this and the areas of responsibility. But again, if you're the counter sniper teams, did you provide input on that? When you got up on that roof and you scanned and you said, okay, here's what we can and cannot see, we're assigning areas of responsibility. Did anybody say, hey, we can only cover a third of that roof or half of that roof? Who's got that roof? And decide. And hey, okay, you're covering that roof. We are not. We are going, if the threat's on that roof, we are going to be scanning over here just in case, right? Didn't happen. Or if it did, they failed to follow it. Either way. What about the Secret Service up close? What about the in-close personal detail? They did not perform well. Now, I realize that this was a B team, and apparently some of them were not even regular Secret Service agents. That's a separate part of the failure. We'll get to that. That's the administrative side. Oh my God. Now, keep in mind, everything I've said so far to this point is like Security 101. No special training is needed for this. This is like event planning 101. If you're a photographer, if you're doing a wedding photography, if you're doing event photography, you've done this, right? You looked at the venue and you've gone, okay, I'm going to stand here and get these angles. My other photographer is going to stand here. The video camera is going to be here. When everybody's here, is anybody blocking views? Are we blocking their views? What's the is there, hey, we're recording audio off of this mic, but there's a speaker right there. Maybe we should move that speaker, 10 feet over so it's not ruining our audio, whatever. This is basic. I have not gotten anything advanced. I am sure that, Mr. Guns and Gear, Tim Kennedy, the multitude of other guys who have a great deal of training in mostly being the shooter in this case. But they have a great deal of input on how to avoid this, right? What makes their job harder when they were in that role? Like, I haven't even touched on that level of stuff, and we've already completely failed. So we will go back to equipment failure, planning failures. Those are because they know he's a high-profile target, and he is, at the very least, a former president, right? Right? I mean, you forget the nominee. You have a former president who is out doing public speaking in a big open place, but we'll get back to that. The close protection agencies and their failures. Their response time, not horrible. The single file stairs kind of created a bottleneck, but they did okay, I would say. There certainly was a lag in realizing what was going on, which there should not have been. They should have been primed to go. In fact, in my opinion, several agents should have moved up onto the stage between him and that roof. Why they didn't, I don't know. Certainly, it doesn't look good. It's not great optics when they do that. But you have a potential threat, right? You have a serious potential threat that you know where it is. A couple agents just standing there until that threat is evaluated would have gone a long way. But, those agents have to be tall enough to block that view, or at least limit that view. That's the problem, because other than apparently one guy, all those agents are shorter than Trump. Significantly shorter than Trump. How are you supposed to manhandle a very large man if you are smaller than him? Significantly smaller than him, and out of shape. Because most of those people looked not in shape. They looked like me. Okay? But certainly not, athletic, physically fit, law enforcement professionals. He had already gone down of his own volition, right? He has already hit the deck. He realized he'd been shot. He heard another shot. He hits the deck. Why did you let him stand up? You don't know the threat's over. You know that one shooter got shot. You don't know the threat is over. You let the former president, I assume he bullied them into it, but you let him stand up, and then you're leaning over. Instead of being, how upright can we be and how much can we block the view of any other shooters? They were leaning over. And he's up here, rah, 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 fight, fight, fight. I'm sorry. Well, they make for iconic photographs and absolutely epic, optics and campaign boosting. Shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Absolutely not. You should have had a ballistic blanket over his head and basically carried him off that stage under the line of sight from anybody else. No excuses. At the very least, he should have been kept down and pulled off the stage, that way. I don't care what you figure out, what your plan is, but he sure as hell should not be standing up head and shoulders above all those agents, with them leaning over to make sure that if anybody wants to shoot him in the head again, his head's visible. What the hell are you doing? This is so stupid and incompetent that, again, it makes these conspiracy theories super simple. Are they trying to get him shot? Because that's what it looks like. I watched that video, and my first response was, are they trying to get him killed? And then it was, holy hell, those are going to be some great photographs. Those are, just epic, right? But my first response is, are they trying to get him killed? The only guys, and I say guys, female, male, the only team members that got their job right in that whole mess from stage to in the truck were the two guys in black who came out on stage and are scanning their immediate area of responsibility. They are looking right around the stage, guns at low ready. They are hoping 100% that the sniper teams are handling the outer perimeter. Their job is to make sure if there is a shooter up close that that person does not get a shot. They focused 100% on their job, and they appear to have done it well. I've got no fault with them. There's only two of them. Again, budget, kind of need four for this job. Corners, right? The rest of this, as they moved off the stage, horrible. Did you not practice this? Like, do you not run this drill? Now, they argue this is the B team. I would argue the B team has more time for training. Do you not practice getting your protectee off stage and to the SUVs? This should be a well-rehearsed drill. This should be automatic. The only variable in this should be Trump, and his feet should not be on the ground. Their training is so bad that a pack of Boy Scouts could do it better. If I hand a watermelon to a pack of Boy Scouts, say a patrol, one patrol, and the other patrol's job is to get that away from them, they will have better planning, better movement, and better coordination for getting that watermelon off that stage without the other patrol getting to it than I saw. These people got to their SUV, got Trump in the SUV, but then had like 5 agents in the way of closing the door of the SUV and no real perimeter around it. Wrong. Wrong. As you got to the SUV, people should have been peeling off on either side and behind. And Trump goes in the SUV. The person or two people back off because there's nobody behind them, and they close the door. The people at the edges are looking for threats. They are controlling the situation. One of them then goes, "You're good. Go. Get out of here." And then we have the, I don't know what she is. I don't think she's a Secret Service agent. I don't know if she's even meant to be an armed agent normally. But clearly she shouldn't be. Clearly she needs remedial training because that woman couldn't holster her firearm at all. She failed repeatedly and then tried to play it off. No excuses. At that level, if you can't do that job, you shouldn't have been there. Now, I understand stress. I understand that this is a, oh my God situation. I don't care. This woman was allowed to be a close protection agent for a former president that is highly controversial. No excuse. Now, I've done my best to avoid the conspiracy theories, but here's where we're going to brush on it a little bit. If you are doing a job like this, there are certain minimum requirements, minimum training levels, minimum experience levels. You're supposed to have pretty qualified people with ongoing training and a certain base level of equipment in order to do the job properly. And apparently, almost none of that existed. And I've heard mixed things about whether they requested more training, more people, more whatever. But it doesn't matter whether they did that request or not. Clearly it was needed. So if they didn't request it, the agent in charge failed, their supervisor failed, and that person's supervisor failed because they didn't make sure it was being taken care of. Yeah, you have a responsibility to make sure the job is being done correctly, right? It isn't. Clearly is not. Empirical evidence shows that there was blood, right? There's no hiding it, right? This isn't we ran a training demo and it didn't come out right. No, the man got shot. There's no way around it. So you failed. If you needed more money and you went to Congress and said, hey, we're overtasked, we need more staff, we need more bodies, we need more training, you would have gotten the money. You don't have to say specifically it's for Trump. Like, it isn't. The Secret Service has many obligations, many duties, many protective details. If you can't meet the needs of all those details going into election season, where these people, President Obama is going to be out there doing speeches, President Clinton, Secretary Clinton, they're going to be out there doing things. They need protection. And that protection is going to need more bodies than when those people are sitting at home, right? You're going to need more equipment. You're going to need drones. You're going to need ballistic barricades. You're going to need ballistic blankets. You're going to need extra SUVs. Well, that's a failure to plan. If you didn't know ahead of time that, hey, our needs are going to go up, we're going to need twice as many going into this season, but we don't have it. The Secret Service has enough additional duties that you could have a pool of agents that are protective detail qualified, their training's kept up to date, and the rest of the time they're tracking down credit card fraud. That's one of the other things they do. Counterfeit money, right? They can be doing these other things, but they're ready, they're available. And instead, we're pulling generic Homeland Security agents with no specialized training and clearly no abilities. We didn't have drones in the air covering this. We didn't have somebody available to be on that roof. We didn't have proper planning. What we had looked like planning to get somebody shot. Now, whether it was intentional, not intentional, a conspiracy, I don't know. And to be honest, it doesn't matter, because what we have without all that is bad enough. It is unacceptable that a former president of the United States of America was shot by a 20-year-old incompetent at a rally. And it wasn't at point blank range where the person was basically committing suicide to hopefully get a shot off. This person was allowed to get up on a roof with a rifle, line up on the president's head, and pull the trigger. And that just can't be allowed to happen. So whatever the Secret Service needs to figure out to make sure that never happens again, regardless of what president it is, what protective detail it is, it doesn't matter. I would be just as pissed off if this was a president that I hated, because it's still a president. It's still somebody that was important enough that they have a security detail, that U.S. government is providing them a security detail. It can't be allowed to fail that badly. If Jason Bourne is taking a shot at you and you fail, that's one thing. This is Barney Fife. Like, you failed against the criminal equivalent of Barney Fife. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and I will talk to you later.